Super Bowl. Ugly Bunny, Bad Bunny, Dumb Bunny, Bad Bunny. And then, of course, Turning Point USA's YouTube show. Here's the setup. It's been proposed that this was a bad thing. That there was innuendo and like evil words, and it was all Spanish. And the truth is, it was just another show. The NFL has lately been notorious for putting on absolutely awful halftime shows during the Super Bowl. This should have been no different than any other time, and factually, it kind of wasn't. But the conflict arises when you have somebody who openly speaks against U.S. foreign policy, U.S. immigration policy. He's basically a music icon coming from one of our commonwealths, which means, yeah, you're not a state, but you got to follow our rules anyway, dum-dums. Intermingled with Puerto Rican culture and Latin culture, and this was it could actually be viewed as un-American, and some people actually think that. On the other side, you have Turning Point USA, which is clearly America first, the American agenda, critical thinking, non-political ideology, mixed with a little bit of religion. And so that kind of clashes with what is currently, I guess you would say, MAGA, or the American way of life that kind of came and went, or was destroyed, or was left behind. Pretty much everything after Gen X sucks. And I know this, I'm Gen X. I see it every day. If you're not Gen X, you kind of suck. But we still believe that there's room for improvement, and that you can actually get better at being a better citizen, a better father, a better mother, a better American. That's what Gen X people think about you. We have high hopes. As someone who has several millennials that are his children, I see that there is, as they get older, much more maturity, and the things that we learned as Gen X, that we learned as children as Gen X, they're now learning as adults. But I diverge. Back to the conflict. Was this American? Was this themed properly? Was this something that we can be proud of globally? And the left is kind of coming out of nowhere, and 133 million people watched, and 161 million people watched, and it's the biggest halftime show ever watched, ever in any place in the galaxy. And that's their talking points. That's what they're sticking to. In fact, I actually made a statement. There's a video of a young lady watching the Turning Point USA halftime show on her phone and dancing while she's in the stadium, while the Ugly Bunny, Bad Bunny, Dumb Bunny, Bad Bunny, whatever his name is doing his show. One of the things that I noticed was that, and I've been to a couple of Latin concerts before, and the crowd kind of goes nuts when the songs are done, or a certain phrase from a song happens. That wasn't happening. People weren't sitting like what's going on? They weren't doing that, but they were just kind of like, okay, yeah, this is okay. This almost seemed as if this was an attempt to take something that is wholeheartedly American and turn it into something else. And like I said before, the NFL is kind of notorious for this. So there's some conflict stuff going on there. Right up there with taking a knee and acting like a fool just because the people at the time who were in charge were letting you do it. I'll get a better shoe deal if I take a knee right here. What was his name? Kaepernick, I think. That's basically the conflict that we're hearing about. Now we have to kind of resolve it, and we have to look at things factually. somewhere between 131 and 161 million people watched that show, allegedly. And this is a selling point to all the left. I actually was chatting back and forth with a administrative judge in the state of Minnesota, lefty, major lefty. I checked her out on X, and that was her. You know, I had originally posted something to the effect of, you know, basically people were watching Turning Point USA. Everything is all Spanish. This is barely American. And that was her response. Well, 161 million people or something like that. It's 161 or 131. You never get a straight answer out of these guys. Said that this was that's how many people watched it. And then I had to remind a sitting judge on X in the plane that's how many people watched the Super Bowl. They came there to watch the Super Bowl. They were watching the Super Bowl on whatever platform they were watching it on. That amount of people came to watch the Super Bowl. They didn't come there to watch this guy's show. And then, of course, it's all crickets. It's all crickets. Because facts actually matter. Now, I don't say this to tell you that you should have been watching the Turning Point USA event. In fact, I have not watched it myself. As I understand it, I like Kid Rock. As I understand it, it did very well. At the time of my initial inquiry into this, which was this morning, they had 6 million views. By this afternoon, this evening, right now, they have over 31 million views on YouTube. And they only have freaking like a pittance of the amount of followers or subscribers on YouTube that the NFL has. And the NFL had only generated 31 million views on YouTube. So they're like right behind them by like 10 million. The thing that caught my attention was that this was Turning Point USA standalone. This was their views, this was their content, no questions asked, no collaborations. The NFL, with 12 million followers, I think that's the number, it could be even more, or should I say subscribers to the YouTube channel, along with NFL Telemundo and NFL Latina or something like that. It was all a collaboration. All of those 3 collaborations only generated 31 million views. And oddly enough, there were actually 151,000 thumbs down on their channel, on the NFL's channel, on their collaboration. I guess the resolution is pretty simple. I don't have a problem with Puerto Rican culture. I've been to Puerto Rico. I've been to the castle. I've drank the rum. I've smoked the cigars in bars in public. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Enjoyed the culture thoroughly. But you can't take somebody who is clearly against what America is trying to rebuild and put them in the middle of the NFL, because now the left is using this as some kind of trophy, like they're taking some kind of victory lap when they've won absolutely nothing by it. And it didn't hurt that a couple of major Hispanic stars had to show up just to get the views. If you're still here, tell me what you think in the comments. I really want to hear what you got to say. And that's it.